At the core of Wayfarer is a belief that if you can connect two human hearts, you can change the world. And it's not so much about the content making the change as much as it is about inspiring the individual to get off the couch and make a change. We started Wayfarer unofficially about 6 or 7 years ago because we saw the landscape of media as just riddled with a lot of content that made us feel okay being worse humans. And we really looked at it and said there's got to be a way to be incredibly entertaining and actually encourage people to want to be better humans. And ourselves first and foremost, we all need that reminder. And so we started by pitching out a show called My Last Days, which is a documentary series about living told from the perspective of people who have a terminal illness. And of course, the immediate reaction, this is 2012, 2013, is, boy, you know, that's a really heavy subject. It sounds really depressing. I don't think anybody's gonna watch it. And even if you do make it, and you know, we plan to put it on YouTube, let's keep it to about 2.5 minutes, 5 if you're like crazy. And we said, okay, cool, we'll make them 22 minutes, 27 minutes, 30 minutes, and people will be inspired. Nobody's gonna be depressed. And we put it out, and that's exactly what happened. I think to date, some 40 million, 50 million people have now engaged with it and has now successfully transitioned into the linear space and airs every year as a special on the CW network. It was great to see that we had the 30, 40, 50 million people tuning in. That was fun to know. However, what was more important to us was we got a message one day from a young woman who said, I have to thank you, your son saved my life by sharing his story. She knew that this was a kid named Zach, and she knew that he had passed away at 18, and so she was writing this note directed at his mom, Laura. And she said, your son saved my life. I watched his story, and I'd attempted to commit suicide. Watching this reminded me of the value of my life, and I will no longer take it for granted. If that's the only person who ever saw any of that series, that's a win. That's a win. And that was the moment in which we realized, okay, that we have to keep doing this. And then after that, what we found out is that the power of this content went even further than we'd ever anticipated. In fact, we were able to find out that in Zach's episode in particular, he writes this song to say goodbye to his family. And it was tied with an osteosarcoma research fund. So one of the things we did outside of making the documentary for him was also to make a music video to go with it as a gift. And we got a bunch of celebrities together and we put the documentary out itself and the music video out itself. Turns out, after everything kind of settled down, that we helped raise over $1 million in osteosarcoma research. And the University of Minnesota research team actually started to have some new findings that led to drug trials that they think are going to help patients who are diagnosed with osteosarcoma. To look at that and draw it all the way back to this idea of, well, what if we tell a story that no one else has ever told? And then see the impact it really has on the world in every meaningful way. You've got the metrics of, people watched and shared and talked and whatever. You've got the metrics of real world impact of somebody's life was saved. And you can even see fiscally that it's helping to raise money for a cause and driving people to take action. That was really astounding to see. And that became the galvanizing moment that Wayfarer realized, oh, we've got to be doing this in everything we do. Pretty much right from the get-go, everything we do is in relationship to a brand as well. And so right from the get-go in My Last Days, we partnered with brands like the NFL and Nissan and all of these other wonderful organizations who helped us make it possible to go and tell these stories to create this impact. And they were so happy to support it. As soon as we would tell them the story over the phone of what we were doing, it was an immediate yes. There was no, let me go run it up the chain for 3 months and try and get contracts signed and back and forth. It was the easiest thing I've ever done. And we found that as we've moved forward, all of these projects that we do, at the end of it, come down to the same thing, which is connecting two human hearts to resonate with one another. And as soon as you have that, you've got a captive audience who will do a heck of a lot more than you think they will.